Deciding which retirement accounts to use can be confusing, but in today's video, I'm going to break down when to use a 401k, a Roth IRA, or an HSA. Now, the decisions you make are going to be different depending whether you're a W-2 employee or whether you're self-employed. I'm Matt Sorensen. Let's build wealth. All right, let's start first in this scenario if you're a W-2 employee. Now, the first thing I want you to do when you're thinking about a retirement account is go sign up for your company's 401k if they provide a match. Most company 401ks where you work are going to provide a match. Typically, they say if you put in, let's say, 4% of whatever you make, we'll match and put in 4% as well. So for example, so we can do the math here. Let's say you make $100,000 and you put in $4,000. That's 4% of what you make. The company says, we'll also put in $4,000. Now you have $8,000 in your 401k, but it only cost you $4,000. You doubled your money by using the 401k match. This is why most advisors and professionals in this space are going to say, always do the 401k because of the match. Your investment options typically aren't great. There's ETFs or mutual funds, not a lot of exciting stuff you can do with your 401k, but the company is incentivizing you to put money into the 401k, and the matches are a no-brainer. You're doubling your money. It's hard to find any investment where your money doubles immediately on the first year. Now, when you're doing the company 401k, you can decide whether to do Roth dollars or traditional dollars. Now, there's a lot of debate on this, but generally my school of thought is do Roth contributions. Let's put money into the 401k as employee Roth contributions. So your $4,000, let's choose to do that as Roth. Sometimes they call that post-tax in retirement plan speak. Now, the employer match, you can also now do as Roth as well. This is a new law that passed a couple years ago where the employer match can be Roth dollars as well. It used to have to be traditional for the match. New rules now in effect, though. You can do Roth dollars on the match as well. Now, I want to explain the differences between Roth and traditional. This is the same for 401ks or even Roth IRAs we're going to talk about here in a second. But when I put money in any Roth account, you do not get a deduction on the contribution. So it doesn't help me now. But in a Roth account, it grows, no tax on the growth, and comes out totally tax-free later in retirement. It's this like tax-free ATM machine that anything I invest in this account, I don't pay tax as it's growing, and there's no tax on the way out later. A traditional account is actually the opposite. When you put money in, the government incentivizes you and says, hey, you put $5,000 in this thing, we'll give you a $5,000 tax deduction. Well, that helps you now. It saves me taxes now. And then the money grows with no taxes as I'm investing and building the account. However, I pay tax on the way out. It's a bummer because as I've grown that balance, later when I hit retirement at 59 and a half, when I start pulling this money out, I'm paying tax on that bigger sum of money that I've grown as I'm pulling it out at retirement. Now, there's lots of different opinions on this. A lot of people say, well, you're in a lower tax bracket then because you're retired, you don't have your business or your income. But our rule of thumb is we love Roth because it's tax-free. We want to put money in and pay tax on the seed, the little amount we contribute, and pay no tax later on the harvest as we're pulling the money out late at retirement. All right, now after you've contributed to the 401k, you put your $4,000 in to get the maximum match of $8,000. I want you to stop. This is what we call the match and out. Don't put more money into your 401k. You can actually still contribute up to $23,000 as an employee into the 401k, but a lot of companies don't match anymore. So we want you to get the match and get out of the company 401k because I'm not getting a double return on my money. And the downside of putting more money into the 401k is I can only invest in the crappy ETFs and mutual funds that they have. Your investment options are limited and the fees on a 401k are very high. The average small business 401k fee to an individual is between 1 and 1.5%. You have a $100,000 account, you will be paying $1,500 a year just in fees on the account. So we don't want to keep putting money in the 401k if we're not doubling it with the match. Now, if you're a high income earner, you might put more money in the 401k later, but only after doing a Roth IRA and an HSA. Watch this video here. I give a more detailed explanation of how to do that. All right, I got the match and I got out. Now, the second place we're going to go to invest the money in a retirement account is the Roth IRA. You can put $7,000 a year into the Roth IRA. Now, again, when I put that money in, remember, these are Roth dollars. I don't get a tax deduction, but that money is growing and coming out totally tax-free later on in retirement. Now, the nice thing about a Roth IRA is I actually have access to that money. Let's say I did this for 10 years and I put in 7 years of contributions into a Roth IRA, and it has $70,000 of contributions, maybe investment gains of $50K, so it's worth a total of $120,000. Now, you can actually access that Roth IRA before you're 59 and a half. The contributions you put into a Roth IRA, that $70,000, $7,000 over 10 years, I can pull out whenever I want. I can pull that out at 35, at 45. That doesn't have to be a hardship or any reason. You can pull the money out of the Roth IRA, the contributions you put in, whenever you want. So I like the flexibility of the Roth IRA because that money is more accessible to me. Maybe I need it in my 30s, 40s, or 50s, but all the investment gains are growing and coming out totally tax-free, and I can't touch those until I hit 59 and a half. Now, the difference in like a traditional IRA is you can't do that. You get a 10% early withdrawal penalty, and you have to take it into your taxable income. You can't even do that in a Roth 401k, by the way. You can take a loan from the 401k, but then you got to pay it back over 5 years. You got to pay interest. That can work sometimes, but the best strategy to have access to your money for any emergency or early retirement or any other big expenditure, starting a business, buying a home, whatever it may be, is the Roth IRA, because the contributions and the money I put in to invest, I can take out whenever I want, no tax, no penalty. That is unique to a Roth IRA. Okay, so now we're up to $15,000 put away in retirement accounts. I got $8,000 into my Roth 401k. That's for my $4,000 contribution in the match. I also have $7,000 in there. So I've got a total now of $15,000 in retirement accounts. Now remember, that was only $11,000 of my money, because I got the company match on the additional 4. Now, if you have additional dollars left, and I gave the example here of someone making 100K, if you do have additional dollars left, the next thing I want you to do is an HSA account, a health savings account. The HSA is a no-brainer because when I put money in, I get a tax deduction. When I invest that money, there's no tax on the gains. It keeps growing, no taxes. And when I pull the money out at any age, as long as it's for medical, there's no taxes on the money coming out. This is like the best of everything. When we looked at the difference between a traditional and a Roth, I get the best of everything. I get a tax deduction when I put the money in. There's no tax on the growth, and there's no tax on a distribution. Why isn't everybody just doing an HSA? I mean, it's the triple tax threat, the triple benefit. So we like the HSA. Now the downside is, remember, you must have a high deductible plan to do this. So you've got to have the high deductible health insurance to do it, but a lot of people have that. The second downside to this is this only works for medical, but hear me out on this. You might be someone that doesn't have medical right now. Maybe you're healthy, you're in your 30s or 40s or even your 20s, and you're like, I don't really have a lot of medical right now. But you know when you're going to have medical? In your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s? As you get older, medical becomes one of the #1 expenses. And rather than draining your retirement later on, why don't we drain our health savings account later on? Because I got a tax deduction on the way in, I'm paying no taxes, I'm investing and growing it, and it comes out totally tax-free for medical care now or that I may have in the future. This could include long-term care, assisted living. Even your Medicare premiums can be paid from an HSA. So the benefits are huge for an HSA. Make sure that's on your map. Now, the amount you can get in the HSA is $4,300 if you're single, or if you have a family. And by the way, this could be a spouse or just you and a child, either one. That's $8,550 that you can put in as an annual contribution. All right, now let's add this back up. Again, I'm making $100K a year. I put in $4,000 in the 401k. I got a match. I dropped another $7,000 in the Roth IRA. And then let's say I'm married, so I put in the $8,550. So now between all these accounts, I have a total of $23,550 in tax advantage accounts. It really only cost me $19,550 because I got the match from the 401k that gave me a boost of that additional $4,000. Now, this is all tax advantage dollars. Now, the benefits of investing in these tax advantage accounts is huge. If you were just putting this money into a savings account or a brokerage account that's not one of these tax preferred accounts, what's the #1 cost you have as you're investing in building wealth? Taxes. That's eating into the returns, and that's eating into next year's returns too, because you didn't have that money to reinvest for next year. And the compounding nature of that is significant. These tax advantage accounts, on the other hand, is they're investing and they're growing. Every dollar gets to be reinvested and is compounding in your favor. Nothing is going to the government in taxes here. So it's a huge incentive to use these tax advantage accounts. This is the ideal order. If you're making $100K a year, we can get at least $23,550 in here using a difference of those 3 accounts, and I would do it in that exact order. Match and get out with your company 401K, go to the Roth IRA next, and then use the HSA if you've got a high deductible plan. Now, for any of you that are self-employed, we're gonna do a similar strategy here, but there's one key difference. There's no match and out strategy, because when you're self-employed, you can do something called a solo 401k, which is a 401k for a self-employed person with no other employees. But here, you're the employee and the employer. So the match is coming out of your pocket. So there's no benefit where I'm doubling my money. I'm putting more money away, of course, but it's at my own expense. So here what I would say is do the solo 401k first. If you want to do 10, 20,000 or more, just do a solo K. Now you might be like, Matt, I just want to put $5,000 away. I wouldn't do a solo K then. I just go right to a Roth IRA. It's cheaper and easier to set up. So depends on your situation, how much you're trying to save. The big differentiator here, of course, no match, but you do have something called the solo 401k, which is actually a pretty powerful strategy because you can put $69,000 a year of traditional or Roth contributions into a solo 401k. Now, the big thing I want to make sure you do not miss in this is I'm not talking about just buying stocks, bonds, and mutual funds in this Roth IRA and the HSA and the solo 401k. What we want to do is invest in assets we know and believe in. Your Roth IRA, your HSA, your solo 401k, you can self-direct that and invest it into real estate, into private companies, into crypto, into any asset you know and believe in. You don't have to buy stocks, bonds, and mutual funds with your IRAs and 401ks. You can. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying if you want to diversify or invest in other assets you know and believe in, you can do that using a self-directed IRA. Now, that's what we do at our company, Directed IRA. I've got a ton of videos on how to do that. I wrote the #1 book on the subject. So make sure you're subscribed to my channel. You can check out our podcast on the subject as well. I get into the self-directing topic and how to do it. We've helped over 20,000 clients do it and over $2.5 billion of assets under administration for clients doing exactly this, but investing it into assets they know and believe in, like real estate, crypto, private companies, startups, ventures, all those cool assets, sometimes called alternative assets. And if you are subscribed to my channel, you also get tips on saving taxes, protecting your assets, and building wealth. I'm Matt Sorensen. We'll see you next time.